So this 15-minute forum, as you can see, is 3 ways to build confidence with our students, and with an explicit focus really on those learners that really lack confidence within our classroom setting. So it's worth noting that learning is an incredibly overwhelming experience for all students, but particularly for those learners who do lack confidence and are incredibly shy. Confident students will dominate lessons, so they will be the ones who put their hands up or who give an answer if you haven't told the room, nobody shout out. They will be the ones who will dominate lessons. And therefore what that means is that generally students who need the most practice, who need to verbalise their answers, double check material, rehearse what you've said, generally don't get it. If we kind of do that, right, who can tell me this? And we don't do that kind of no shouting out, kind of no hands up type of approach to our questioning. So generally the students who lack confidence don't get the practice they need and therefore don't become confident with the material, and therefore again their confidence isn't being developed. So it's really worth considering that first of all. So the 3 strategies to try and ensure that the students who lack confidence are having their confidence built. The first is to consolidate learning as much as possible. And to provide explicit rehearsal for them. So by consolidate, we just mean, as I'm sure you know, going over that content repeatedly, using retrieval grids, using brain dumps, using quizzes, using crosswords, using mix and matches, going over content as much as possible. And it's worth knowing that obviously this benefits those learners that lack confidence, but those learners that are quite good at recall can't overlearn material, so they don't get disadvantaged by repeatedly going back over content. It's worth considering that. And it's important that learning is consolidated with inclusive questioning, so students rehearse the material. So for example, if I say, right, what's a norm? That inclusive questioning means that I am definitely questioning those students who lack confidence. Tell me what a norm is. Give me an example. Okay, apply that to this. They're getting as much rehearsal as possible with those inclusive questioning. Sometimes we maybe feel the students who lack confidence, we don't want to question them, but it's really important that we do. It might be worth reminding the students in the class, everyone's going to get questioned 2 or 3 times. It's perfectly fine. We have a 10-second wait time. It's really important that I gauge everyone in the room understands before I move on. Questioning is about establishing if we have any gaps, and we have to fill them. So they're really clear. The purpose of questioning is never an I got you moment. You weren't listening and you should have been. It's just to establish those gaps. But giving those really inclusive questions and not allowing those really confident learners to keep giving you the answers. Then it gives you the impression that everyone in the room understands, when that learner who lacks confidence maybe needs a bit more time, or we need to clarify with them. Guided practice really helps that explicit rehearsal. So again, just to remind you from that Rosenstein's principles, that's anything that enables the students to use the material in some way before doing any independent practice. So again, I'll come back to things like the brain dump, retrieval or crosswords, where they're practicing with the material, and it gives them more rehearsal and it gives them more time to build their confidence. So again, I'm really big on the kind of brain dumping in my lessons at the moment. But what I'm finding is they get to rehearse with the material on the whiteboards. It's very non-threatening because they can rub bits out. I can check if there's any misunderstanding in the room. And if there's 2 or 3 learners or more that have misunderstood, that's an opportunity to reteach. But I can also go around and clarify. So that guided practice gives them time to rehearse. And what's really good about the guided practice, not only does it mean they'll keep rehearsing the material so they're getting more confident, is it shortens the feedback loop. So the students haven't got to wait a week where I've marked a 5 marker or a 20 marker or a 40 marker. They haven't got to wait a week. And when I've marked it, it's not where it should be, here, here, and here. And then they've got to kind of be faced with, an E grade. If it shortens the feedback loop, it builds the learner's confidence. So we've just clarified, no, just add a bit more there, give me some example here. So it means the students can improve on what they've done and they can produce something of much better quality when they put pen to paper. So now it's not an E grade. Now it's a D grade because they've had that experience of that guided practice, that shortening of that feedback loop, and therefore producing something much better. So yeah, guided practice, given that consolidation and that explicit rehearsal. Scaffolding. So we've got consolidation, lots of explicit rehearsal, and then scaffolding the specific details. So with scaffolding, this can be just verbal scaffolding. So students who struggle to offer very detailed answers, both verbally when we're questioning them or in written form, find it very difficult to organise their ideas. They generally really struggle. So when we're questioning students, and again, I'll come back to I'm a bit obsessed with ANAME, but what is ANAME? They will say normlessness. Okay, how does ANAME take place within a society? Well, too much social change. They'll give you kind of one word answers. So you kind of push through 3 more questions. So what is it? Where does it take place? Where else can it take place? And then getting them, that's a form of scaffolding. And then getting them to go, okay, right, say it all again for me, do the whole thing. And then getting them to re-give you the answer with all of the scaffolding built in. So ANAME is an unwritten rule. It can take place in a society due to too much social change and within a community if there's too much movement. So we're helping them verbalise their answers and understand some key points within it. Again, you can see other scaffolding can be, because sometimes students struggle to start with. One reason an advantage would be, again, I generally get them to do this on whiteboards or verbalise, so they've got that guided practice before they're getting a bit concerned about putting pen to paper. Okay. Last one, so retrieval with agency. So we've got consolidation, we have got our scaffolding, and this is a bit of retrieval but with agency. So quizzing can really help boost their confidence, and an advance notice of any quizzing. So I'm using the word quizzing. Sometimes it's interesting to focus on the language. So we give the students weekly mini mocks. I don't think the mini maybe takes away the maybe anxiety of mocks, but advance notice of any quizzes, testing or mocks, giving them very clear a week before, this is what will be on the quiz or mini mock in our example. But students who struggle to form study habits generally benefit from some advance notice, being really specifically clear on what's going to come up. But I would also note that they can benefit from break time catch-ups. So obviously this year our break times are directed time, and it might be worth just considering that if you're doing work during your break time, which evidently you are doing kind of registers, sorting out caps and things like that, it might just be worth noting that using break time catch up can be really, really helpful. So if they have not completed the homework for the lesson and it actually really only takes 10 minutes for them to read the article and the questions, and that's what you're going to do after break, getting them to use that break time can be really helpful. Not only for your workload, because then you haven't got to check the next lesson whether they've done it, but also it just means that they are using effectively college time to catch up on that work. And again, those students who lack confidence and really struggle with study habits can really benefit. So generally what I'll do is I'll text them at 8 o'clock in the morning and say, right, the homework's due at 9:30. I can see it's not been completed as of yet. Please ensure it's completed by 9:30. Otherwise, I'll get you to do break time catch up. And then break time, I just double check it hasn't accidentally been handwritten, I haven't missed anything. And then they would use that break time catch up. Generally, they don't use all the breaks and they can go to the loo, etc. But it does really help with those students who lack confidence in those study habits, because we generally know the ones who maybe lack a bit more confidence aren't the ones doing the studying outside of lessons that they need to do to build up their confidence as well. It's a tricky one to master, but it might just be worth considering. Sometimes as teachers, we have to consider what's best kind of for our well-being and the workload that we face, but might be worth having a think about. Okay, as always, any questions, please let me know. Or if you fancy having a chat about it, come see me and we can have a good chat. Thanks very much.